The Dallas Mavericks were a very competitive franchise in the 80s. On the other hand, Mavs fans experienced quite the opposite in the 90s, as things really got dreadful. But a former Celtic who had a very good record of evaluating talent would come to the Lone Star State and quickly build the Mavs into one of the top teams in the Western Conference. As mentioned earlier, Dallas experienced success in the 80s but had a miserable decade in the 90s. Dallas didn't win the lottery during this time, but was able to assemble a talented trio in Jim Jackson, Jamal Mashburn, and Jason Kidd. A once promising future quickly got ugly and toxic as major problems with chemistry, coaching, and the inability for some players to be coached led to a much needed blow it all up and start all over. It started in late December of 1996 when disgruntled Mavs point guard Jason Kidd was traded to Phoenix that brought a young athletic wing in Michael Finley who would become an all-star in Dallas. Then in less than 2 months, Don Nelson was hired to be the GM, and within 10 days he traded away Jamal Mashburn and Jim Jackson. Now Mashburn was a very talented player, as it seemed Dallas did not get enough, but Mash only played 18 games the previous season and really got off to a slow start for the 96-97 season. And as for the Jim Jackson deal, Nelson described two of the players the Mavs received as cornerstone players in Sean Bradley and Robert Pack. But it wouldn't be these two who would join Finley to form an exciting Big Three. For the 97-98 NBA season, GM Don Nelson fired Jim Clemens as head coach and then hired himself to guide the Mavericks, and this is understandable because Jim Clemens was running the triangle and Don Nelson wanted to be more up-tempo. Dallas once again had another rough season, but one of the most important days in Dallas Mavericks history took place later that summer. On June 24, Don Nelson saw the talent in Dirk Nowitzki and acquired the German player on draft day, and saw Steve Nash as a player to run his up-tempo offense, and also acquired him the same day. Dallas had its new talented trio, which helped Dallas get over the 500 mark in more than a decade. In the early 2000s, Dallas would be contending for the Western Conference title. Now Dallas wouldn't have a lot of first-round picks as they were being traded to build around their Big Three. Now I'm not going to get into all the trades, but some of the solid players that came to Dallas with all Nelson's wheeling and dealing and signings during his reign were Howard Eisley, Tim Hardaway, Christian Laettner, Juwan Howard, Rafe LaFrentz, Nick Van Exel, Antoine Jameson, Tony Delk, Antoine Walker, Jerry Stackhouse, Jason Terry, and Keith Van Horn. Now I do want to mention that for the 2003 NBA draft, the Mavericks selected a very athletic wing player who was 6'7" with a huge wingspan in Josh Howard, and also Dallas signed the versatile Marquise Daniels as an undrafted rookie free agent who was 6'6", athletic, and could play the point. But after the 2003-2004 season, Steve Nash signed with the Suns. Then after the 2004-2005 season, Michael Finley was released in order to avoid paying luxury taxes. The Big Three that turned Dallas around was 66% gone. Dirk Nowitzki was still there with the Mavs, and there were still several players with talent on the roster. But also near the end of the 2004-2005 NBA season, Don Nelson resigned. There were reports about Nelson losing interest and not being happy about gradually being cut out of the Mavericks draft and trade decisions, and Nelson was also not too happy that Dallas didn't re-sign Steve Nash. Avery Johnson would take over as a coach, and Don Nelson's son Don, which is spelled with two N's at the end, would become the new GM. But like I said earlier, there was some talent on this roster with depth, with players like Dirk Nowitzki, Jason Terry, Jerry Stackhouse, Marquise Daniels, Josh Howard, Keith Van Horn. And Dallas was also able to acquire Devin Harris, who was drafted 5th overall in 2004, and they did this by not trading any draft capital. But Dallas would lose in 6 games to Dwayne Wade and Shaq and the Miami Heat in the 2006 NBA Finals. Then for the 06-07 NBA season, the Mavs ended up with the best record in the NBA at 67-15, but surprisingly, they lost in the first round of the NBA playoffs to the Warriors, who was coached by Don Nelson, who did a great job coaching his players on how to defend Dirk Nowitzki and really knew when to attack Nowitzki with the double team. Dallas still had some success the next 3 seasons, but never made it to the conference finals. But for the 2010-2011 season, things would be different. Leading up to the season, this is a list of players Dallas acquired through trades. Now these players are acquired by trading players on the roster. Only Jason Kidd was acquired in a trade that involved Dallas losing a first-round pick. So with Dirk Nowitzki and Jason Terry in the mix, the Dallas Mavericks made it to the NBA Finals, where they upset the Miami Heat and they defeated them in 6 games. Dallas finally won the NBA championship, which was their first. I saw a story where someone started with a red paperclip and through a series of trades ended up with a house. That's what the Dallas Mavericks from the late 90s to their 2011 championship kind of reminded me of in a way when I was writing for this video. Dallas did lose Steve Nash and Michael Finley, but was able to build around the elite talent of Dirk Nowitzki. the Mavs built a championship without any elite free agent signings or with high draft picks. They did it with savvy talent evaluation and trades from Don Nelson's first trade until 2 of these later trades in 2010. Real quick, I just want to thank all those who have supported 90 Sports Nostalgia. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share, and check out the links below for Patreon and merch. Thank you so much.